Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Hope you're doing well. You enjoyed Masters weekend. Got a few things to cover this week. I'd like to start off with a follow-up on my review of the ShotScope H50. Talk about a golf lesson that did not include hitting a single golf shot. Then talk a little bit about my weekend of golf. Give you my thoughts on the Masters. And finally wrap up with what I think we can all learn from what we saw at Augusta this weekend. Well, let's start with the follow-up on the ShotScope H50 review. And talked about it a little more in depth on the last podcast, but the idea behind the ShotScope was to have a device that gave me distances to front, back, center of green, as well as distances to or to cover hazards, as opposed to what I've always done in the past, which is using a rangefinder to shoot a flag or figure out the distance to a hazard. After about 3 weeks with the device, I can 100% say that I think having those additional pieces of information is a good idea. Not just shooting the flag with a rangefinder, but knowing what the front is, what the back is, what kind of distance I have to or over a hazard. I think it's good, and I think it helps to make better decisions on the golf course. Unfortunately, I don't think the ShotScope is the best device to help you to do that. So, as I said last week, things I like, it's very easy to see, color screen, don't need reading glasses to see the numbers, which is and has been a problem for me using apps on my phone or potentially considering using something like a Garmin watch. Just too small. I can't see them. So I like having something that's basically hanging up on the golf cart by my rangefinder. But I think there are other ways, probably cheaper ways to get this done. And like I said, there are apps that you can use, a Garmin watch. There's options as opposed to spending $200 on this device. And the downsides have been the battery life is just terrible. While on the box it says 3+ rounds of golf, it barely gets through 2 full rounds. And when you do have to charge it, it takes forever to charge. I'm assuming that for a relatively small device, it's got a relatively large battery to keep the bright color screen going all day. But the battery life is disappointing. The other piece is each time you log in, you can set it up to do some specific things. Do you want to keep score with it? Do you want to track shots with it? And initially, I set it up to not track shots, not keep score, basically just be there. And each time you finish a hole, you've got to skip to the next hole. Sometimes between holes, it asks you to enter a score. Sometimes it doesn't. So on Sunday after 9 holes, I thought, well, let me turn the scoring on and give that a shot and see if I like that better. And you know what happened? Exactly the same thing as when I didn't have the scoring turned on. After some holes, it asked me to enter a score. After other holes, it didn't. It's just not a polished device. I'm going to keep it. I'll use it. I'm not a big fan of returning things, but it feels to me like, and I'm dating myself here, but we already know this is a podcast focused on an older crowd. I remember when the first touchscreen BlackBerry came out to compete with the iPhone. I loved BlackBerries and had to have the touchscreen version, and it was just terrible. It wasn't a finished product. It was laggy, glitchy, and that's what I see from the ShotScope. It is just not a polished product. So again, I am pro having something that gives you the information to make better decisions out on the golf course, but I just can't give the ShotScope my recommendation. I also talked about in the last podcast that it had been a few weeks since I had had a golf lesson. So this past week was the first time that Reggie and I were back together in been 3 weeks. And we had an interesting golf lesson. And when I got to Golf Tech, they've got, I think it's 5 bays that people can go into, hit golf balls on a simulator. And when I got there, Reggie was with somebody else. So I went into a bay, and in each of the bays, they have a whiteboard. So when I went into the bay, I started writing on the whiteboard. And what I wrote on the whiteboard was that I had done my initial swing evaluation on July 25th of 2025. And at that time, my handicap was a 21.5. It had been 8 months since the evaluation. I'd used 30 of my 52 credits. I still had 22 credits remaining. And my current handicap is 17.1. My low handicap was 15.5 on January 18th of this year. So when Reggie came in, I told him that for my lesson this week, I wanted to sit down and talk a little bit. And I shared with him the story of the first golf lessons that I'd taken, which was started playing golf again in late 2023. In 2024, early 2024, I purchased a 10-pack of lessons from a golf pro at a local golf course and started taking those lessons. They helped. They helped me improve my game. Shortly thereafter, I broke 100 for the first time. But what I told Reggie was that I felt like the first 2 or 3 lessons were very impactful. And I understand that there needs to be repetition in your golf game. But the further we got into it, the less impactful I thought they were. And one of the things looking back that bothered me was that I wasn't a proponent for what I wanted to get out of the golf lessons. And I didn't have this conversation with that instructor. One of the things we did is, again, the lessons were outside. Every shot that I hit off of a tee. Didn't matter if it was a driver or a 9-iron. They were all off of a tee. And I think that there was a time where that was probably a good idea just to help to teach me to get to the ball. But over time, I felt like it would have been helpful to put balls on the ground and make contact and see, am I hitting shots fat or thin? And maybe not, but maybe if we would have had this conversation, I would have gotten a little more explanation about why he believed it was a good idea 10 lessons in to still be hitting balls off of a tee. So finished with that group of lessons and went really quite a while. So like I said, that was early 2024 without taking another lesson. Did not take another lesson until, as I wrote up on the board, late July of 2025, at which point I felt like I had reached a plateau and needed someone to help me break through that. And that brought me to Golf Tech. And same thing happened with Golf Tech. The first few months, I really learned a lot about the golf swing. Doesn't mean it immediately improved. In a lot of ways, I went backwards for periods of time, but I knew I was learning. I knew I was changing my swing, and that ultimately, I'd go backwards for 2 or 3 weeks because golf is hard, but then I'd start to see the progress. And I did. I made a lot of progress in 2025, but as we enter 2026, while again, I understand the need for repetition, I feel like we're working on the same things over and over and over again, and they're not really finding their way into my golf game. We did get outdoors for one lesson, and in that lesson, we worked on bunker shots, chipping, and pitching, and it was wildly frustrating. But I also thought it was the best lesson I had had in quite some time. I learned a lot, and today I'm still working on things that I learned while we were outdoors, working on bunker shots, pitching, and chipping. So basically, I wanted to have a conversation about where do we go from here. My fear was that I was starting to feel like was starting to feel like I'd given up on this process and that I was already in my mind thinking about what am I going to do next, because I don't think golf tech is the answer. But that led to a really good conversation with Reggie. We went on to talk about all the different facets of my game, and he wanted to hear how I felt I was doing with driver. How was I doing with things like a fairway wood or a hybrid? How about irons, wedges, putting, shots that are less than a full club into a green? And we ranked all of those things, giving them scores from 1 to 10, 10 being Scotty Scheffler, 1 being I've never picked up a golf club before. And I think we came away from it with a plan of attack that while my whole golf game still needs work, the place that needs the most work right now is chipping, pitching, putting. I think there's a lot that I can accomplish by improving in my short game. The other thing that we decided was that historically I had been doing lessons on Friday. And there was a time where that worked for my schedule. I think it worked for my golf game. I'd go in, I'd take a lesson on Friday. Generally on Saturday, I'd play some really bad golf because and even Reggie would tell, like on the course, that's not the time to try and put these things into practice. But I felt like I had to, and I had to try and take some of the things that I'd learned the day before and get them into my golf game. That usually led to some score like 105. But then the next day I'd come out on Sunday and play better golf. Over the last month or two, and this is one of the reasons why we hadn't been together for 3 weeks, Fridays have become really difficult. I mentioned before that my professional life has been challenging. And when I am there on Fridays, I don't think that I am always in the right frame of mind to learn. And that's on me. I've got to be present. I've got to be there to absorb what I'm taught. And I've got to be committed then to moving forward and working on it. And I don't think I have been. So we made a change and decided to move the lessons to Saturday afternoons. And on a Saturday, generally, not always, but generally, I have nothing else going on Saturday afternoon. So I go out, play on golf on Saturday morning. I can come in on Saturday afternoon, report back how it went, what worked, what didn't, and then get to work on whatever this week's lesson may be. The other thing that he said was on Saturdays, he would have more opportunities for us to get outside. And I do think that that's really important. So again, full golf lesson, never hit a golf ball, talked about plateaus and the way learning works. And I know I don't expect improvement to be a straight line, that there's going to be some of this, but I think I needed it. I hope it kind of level set and we have a plan going forward. And Reggie was great about it. So what I'd say is if you are taking the lessons and you feel like you're not getting what you need, you're the paying customer there. Be a proponent for yourself and for what you believe. You know you. And quite often, and I've done it with my kids, if I was having an 8-year-old take golf lessons, I think it falls into the camp of they don't know what they don't know. And while I don't know golf, and that's why I'm taking lessons, I do know me. And I've been involved in sports my whole life. I like to compete. I know how I learn. I know what adds value and how to make things click in my mind. So the only way to get that across to your teacher, your instructor, is to help them understand it and make sure that the two of you are a team. You're on the same page and you're both working in a direction that you think is going to help you get to where you need to be. So don't be afraid to have those conversations if you've paid for lessons and you feel like maybe they're starting to get a little stale. So that brings me to my weekend of golf. And on Saturday, ended up working Saturday morning, was not able to join my normal group for the morning round, but I did get out and play on Saturday afternoon. Beautiful day, windy, which always makes it interesting on the golf course, but played with a very nice couple from Quebec they really helped me out because sometimes I struggle with names, but they basically had the same name. It was Dan and Daniela. And we had a great afternoon out on the golf course. And I started out the day playing really, really good golf. On Saturday, after 8 holes of golf, I was 2 over par. That was 6 pars and 2 bogeys. Now, I've got to admit, I felt it going into the 9th hole because 2 over par, if I make a par on 9, I shoot a 38 on the front. And yeah, that puts me in a place where certainly thinking about, hey, maybe today's the day that I break 80. So I move on to the 10th hole, hit a decent drive, left to the fairway, but went to the shot scope. And on the 9th hole, there's water in front of the green. Too long for me to get there in 2. There's no way I carry the water. I'm still probably 250, 260 out. But again, this is where the shot scope comes in handy. Come up with a plan of attack on what I need to hit. And I think I needed about a 160-yard shot to lay up and be where I want to be for my 3rd shot, and hit just a perfect shot. I couldn't, if you said, hey, you don't need to hit the shot, you can just walk up and place it where you want it. I could not have placed it any better. So absolutely perfect. Leave myself about 115 yards into the green. Like I said, really windy day, wind at my back. And I think this is where I started to get myself in a little bit of trouble. Hit a wedge. And in my mind, well, in my mind, I had a conflict going on. I was telling myself, just hit a full wedge. There's room to the back of the green. If we go long, the green slopes down, the ball will roll back to the pin. Something between that thought and the time I swung the club told me, take just a little bit off of this one. And I needed about 90 yards to carry the water, hit it 80 yards in the air, and kerplunk into the drink. So 3rd shot goes in the water. Now I'm dropping 4, hitting 5. A 5th shot covers the water, but I slice it out to the right side of the green. And anytime you're chipping or pitching onto the 9th green, it is a really dangerous shot because a little too long, it will get rolling down the green and go right back into the water. So the plan of attack here was to chip it up, have it just land on the fringe, roll onto the green, and it should really get all the way down to the hole. I hit a decent shot, a decent chip, landed on the fringe, but stopped, didn't get to the green. So my 7th shot is from the fringe, used putter, pushed it probably 12 feet past the hole, and from there, 3-putted for 10, which meant that on the front, I shot a 43, which is 7 over par, but 5 of those over par strokes came on the last hole. And it derailed me for the rest of the day. I did not make a par on the back, put up another 10 on the par 5 12th, went on to shoot 51 on the back for a 94 on Saturday. Fast forward to Sunday. Sunday, I did get out in the morning with the regular group. It was myself, Al, and Jason. And the bad golf that I played on Saturday afternoon seemed to carry into Sunday morning. Started bogey, made a par on 3, but then a triple, a double, and ended up shooting 48 on the front on Sunday. Move on to the back, and after starting bogey, went par, birdie, bogey, par. So 7 holes into the back, and I am 2 over through 7. Get to 17. I had a great drive, one of my best drives of the day, middle of the fairway. 3-wood that left me about 30 yards in. Chip goes a little long of the green and takes me 3 more shots to get down. So I bogey 17, get to 18, and hit my tee shot out of bounds on the way to a double bogey and shoot 41 on the back on Sunday. So good news, bad news. Bad news is, for some reason, penalty strokes have found their way back into my game in a big way. And I blame new golf balls. So talked about the fact that historically, I played used golf balls. I didn't lose a ball in the month of March. And I thought, my accuracy has improved so much. I think it's time to treat myself and buy some new golf balls, which I did. And now that I have new golf balls, I'm going out and losing. I lost a sleeve on Saturday, a sleeve on Sunday. And I don't know. It's just an amazing thing. So that's the bad. The good is I have these moments where, again, 2 over through 8. Look at Sunday, 3 over through 8. I'm capable of stringing good golf together, but when it goes off the rails, I struggle to bring it all back together. And I'm talking about it more and more. I've got to work on the mental side of this game because there is good golf in there. I just have to find a way to find it more consistently. And when things don't go well, to be able to turn it around and get back on track. So that was my Sunday morning, finished up right around noontime, went to Publix, picked up some groceries, got home, got a shower, sat down for the final round of the Masters, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what I saw on Sunday at the Masters. It's Sunday evening, and I just finished watching Rory McIlroy join Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo, and Tiger Woods as someone who has won the Masters back-to-back. And I don't know if the Masters it may be the best golf tournament of the year, but there's something about it. There's a drama that comes with the Masters that I'm not sure we get in the US Open or the Players Championship. There is just something about the Masters. So going back to Friday, the end of day on Friday, Rory had opened up what appeared to be an insurmountable lead. He'd shot 65 on Friday and set a Masters record for having a 6-stroke lead going into the weekend. But again, if this is a tournament you follow, if it's something you watch, you just know. You know there are no insurmountable leads. People do not run away and hide at the Masters. And it didn't take long for things to level back out again. On Saturday, Rory shot a 73, and he brought everyone back into the chase on Sunday. So he started the day today, tied with Cameron Young at 11 under par, with Sam Burns, Shane Lowry, Jason Day, Justin Rose, and Scotty Scheffler all close behind. So a murderer's row. And you just knew it was going to be an exciting day of golf. After the 4th hole today, I thought this would have been a completely different recording than the way it has turned out. So on the 4th hole, Rory 3-putted, and 2 of the putts he missed were from inside of 5 feet. And at that point, he gave up the lead. And I thought, I'll be honest with you, at that point, I thought he was probably done. And clearly I was wrong. But I think I was putting myself in his shoes and thinking about how I would feel, how I would recover from that kind of 3-putt. And the reality is I wouldn't have recovered. And first of all, it's a ridiculous thought to think that I would be in the lead in the Masters on day 4. But there have been whispers, and probably not even whispers. People have said that Rory isn't mentally tough enough, that, he coughs up leads. And that was the way things started today. And when it happened, my initial thought was that would be the conversation about Rory giving up that lead. And what I was going to say is, if you came here for me to talk about how he choked or how mentally weak he is, you're just not going to hear it, because the more golf I play, the more I realize how difficult this game is. And golf's unique in that it's not about being on a hot streak for 10 or 15 minutes. Hockey is famous for, if a goalie kind of gets in the zone at the right time, that can carry a team to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Baseball, you get a couple of pitchers on your staff that are just absolutely on fire. Same thing, can shut an entire team down, can get hot. But golf isn't about who shot the best round on Sunday, because there were people who shot better rounds today than Rory shot. It's about who was the most consistent golfer and who put up the best score over 4 days. And when you think about it, he's 12 under after Friday and Saturday and wins the tournament at 13 under. And being in the lead at the Masters, it affects people. And you saw people further down the leaderboard charging up it and having good days. But the guys that started at the top, or who rose to the top. So at one point, Cameron Young was leading. At one point, Justin Rose was leading. And when those guys found themselves in the lead, the pressure changed. And it's interesting to watch. But Rory hung in there and played good golf, not great golf, but he played good enough to win the tournament. So it is impressive. And again, I look at how the pressure ramped up on those other guys when they found themselves in the lead. Now, Rory goes to 18. He hits an errant drive right that, at least for a moment, made you say, uh-oh, like this thing could get interesting. But good recovery shot, puts it in the bunker, out of the bunker, 2-putt for bogey, and finishes ahead of Scotty Scheffler by 1 stroke. Personally, was pulling for a playoff. Would have loved to have seen it. But Rory won the day. He was shaky a little early, pulled it back together, played good golf, and really it was everybody else who crumbled around him. He was the steady force through the back half of the golf tournament today. So, like I said, the Masters is always fun. Enjoy watching it. I can't imagine what that pressure feels like. I mean, I'm out on weekends playing for nothing other than pride, I guess. And I feel pressure. I feel frustration after a 3-putt that can derail me for another hole or two. The mental side of this game, more and more, I realize how important the mental side of this game is. And while, again, every one of them are worlds better ball strikers than I am, I think there are other people, right? There are a lot of great college golfers. There are people out there that are great ball strikers. What separates the guys who win on Sundays from everybody else who is a great ball striker, it's the mental side of the game. So for me, any questions about Rory, the mental game, I think they're over. Is he going to win every tournament? No, of course not. Nobody does. But it was a challenging day today, tough day. Again, goes into the weekend with a record lead. The field comes back to him on Saturday. I know he was feeling the heat to start the day today, and you could see it early on, but he steadied himself. And as everybody else started to feel the heat, he was the last guy standing. And that's back-to-back, 2 Masters in a row. Congratulations, Rory McIlroy. I went back and listened to my Masters recap and couldn't help but think that we could all learn something from Rory's weekend at Augusta. And why shouldn't we look to the very best in the world to try and emulate what they do? It's interesting that as a kid, I watched sports on TV and would go out the next day and pretend to be, for me, my hero on the basketball court, which was Dr. J. My friends and I would meet at the basketball court, talk about all the amazing things that we'd seen on TV, and then try to recreate it. No, we weren't the athletes that we watched on TV, but it didn't stop us from dreaming and trying to see how close we could get to the image burned into our minds. When and why does that stop with golf? I think it's an adult problem. I have no doubt that there were kids out on driving ranges or golf courses on Monday trying to emulate a crazy shot that they saw on TV over the weekend. But as adults, we stop dreaming. We live in reality and are quick with all the reasons that we can't hit that shot. I don't have that kind of club head speed, or I can't put backspin on the ball like that. The golf courses that I play aren't like Augusta. Of course, that's all true. But when I was 13 years old, glued to the TV watching Dr. J defy gravity, I also wasn't 6 feet 6 inches tall with a 40-inch vertical leap. But it didn't stop me from trying to emulate what I saw, and through that, I learned and developed skills that did pay dividends as I grew bigger, stronger, faster. So no, at 57 years old, I'll never have Rory's clubhead speed or Phil Mickelson's short game. But what's wrong with taking these things I see on TV on Sunday and working them into my game? Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but I guarantee along the way, I will learn. The biggest things that I take from Rory's victory this weekend is how important the mental side of the game is. I said it earlier. I thought that after the 3-putt on 4, he was done. Why? Because I know I would have been done. But he didn't crumble. He kept playing, kept grinding, and while he didn't have the game that led him to be 12 under par after Friday, shooting 1 under through the final 2 rounds was enough to get the job done. So if Rory can 3-putt from inside of 5 feet in front of millions of people watching around the world, why should I let a 3-putt from 30 feet ruin my Saturday morning? Pride, embarrassment, 3-putting in front of friends who have done the same plenty of times and are more focused on their golf game than mine? Nothing in my life changed in the moment. The Golf Channel or ESPN won't be breaking down the miss on Monday. Podcasters around the world won't be discussing how I blew the lead at the Masters. It's just a number on a card. That's it. Yes, I want to be better. We all do. It's human nature. A 30 handicap wants to be a 25. A 25 wants to be a 20. A 15 wants to be a 5. And a scratch golfer wants to be a +3. More and more I understand that this is a journey. And for recreational golfers like pros, it will never end. For Rory, this weekend was just another stop on his journey. An important stop, a big stop, winning the Masters for the second time. But he's not done. He'll continue to compete, and after what is hopefully a great celebration, set his sights on the next leg of his journey. For me, this journey began with a call from my son who said, "Hey, coming home, and when I'm there, I would like to play golf." 3 years and thousands of dollars later, golf has become an obsession. The journey has included buying new clubs, taking lessons, becoming a member of a golf course, taking a trip to TPC Sawgrass, breaking 100, breaking 90, and now dreaming of breaking 80. Like any trip, there have been moments of smooth sailing, but also potholes, traffic jams, and speed bumps. I've had laughs, moments that made me proud, and moments that I would like to forget. I probably won't be out this weekend trying to figure out the Scotty shuffle, letting my rear foot slide out from under me as I try to drive the ball 325 yards down the middle of the fairway for fear of falling over and breaking a hit. But I can guarantee you the 13-year-old me would have tried it and would have learned something through the process. Every experience, good or bad, offers an opportunity to learn, and watching Rory this weekend just reinforced my belief in how important the mental side of this game is. I'll keep working on my ball striking, putting, chipping, pitching, but I know there's good golf within me. I've seen it. Just this past weekend it appeared when I went 2 over through 8 holes. I've also seen the other side, one errant shot leading to another, and before I know it, I'm walking off a par 5 with a 10 on the card. The next time things feel like they're starting to get away from me, I'll channel Rory, like the 13-year-old me channeled Dr. J, and hopefully I'll move just a little closer to the guy who walked off the 18th green at Augusta on Sunday to pick up his second green jacket. If you made it this far, thank you. I can't tell you how much it means to me that you hung in there for the whole show. If you enjoyed it, please rate, review, and subscribe. And maybe even share it with a friend who is out there on their own golf journey. If you listen on Spotify, leave a comment or a question, or send me an email at breaking80over50@gmail.com. I promise I'll read every one. All music was provided by Epidemic Sound. I'll leave links to any of the content that I mentioned in the show notes. Keep swinging, keep smiling, and remember, it's a game. Get out there and have fun. Thanks, everybody.